if I'm fixing and controlling somebody else, what am I avoiding in myself? Right. And I'm often trying to avoid my own fear, my own loneliness, my own feelings of stuck, my own feelings of grief and loss.
Yeah.
Maybe I don't want to face the fact that an aging parent is winding down. Right. And that hurts. So I'm going to try and control and micromanage every aspect of that experience.
So as not to feel the hurt.
Yeah. If I'm distracted by micromanaging somebody else's life, I don't have to deal with my own stuff. Welcome to Right Here, a podcast about mental health, connection, and what it means to be human. I'm Christopher Mooney.
And I'm Kenyon Phillips. Each episode, we unpack the psychological patterns that shape our relationships, our sense of self, and the way we move through the world.
No jargon, no judgment, just thoughtful conversations that invite us to come back to the present moment.
Because when we're right here with ourselves and right here with each other, something shifts.
We get a little clearer, a little more regulated, a little more right.
Right Here is a podcast partnership with WPKN 89.5 FM in Bridgeport, streaming online at WPKN.org and via our free listening apps. Am I in a relationship with somebody, or am I trying to fix them?
It's a great topic. Like when we blur the line between helping and managing somebody's life.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good one. I think that kind of falls in line with everything we've been talking about too. Now this kind of like, okay, I know these things about myself, about boundaries, about anger, about anxiety, about the narrative that we tell ourselves. And then we have this idea of like, okay, where do we cross that line? Maybe I think it happens more often than we might even realize.
Absolutely.
We're actually managing somebody.
Absolutely. And there's this phenomenon where when we're trying to be helpful, that's actually the sunny side of being really controlling.
Yeah, it can be, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's depending on what your expectation or your intent is.
Right. And if it's unsolicited help that I'm offering.
Yeah. That's true. If somebody hasn't asked and you inject your help into their life,
then chances are I'm trying to control them.
Absolutely. So today we're going to go over a couple things. So we're going to talk about this idea of like helping when it turns into managing.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're going to look at support versus control, what the difference is and what fixing actually is. And then we're going to look at when this, like kind of how this happens. And it's a couple different scenarios. We can talk about parenting. We can talk about relationships.
Yeah.
We could talk about maybe being adult children, managing parents, right? Because it's like we as parents managing our children, but then we also have the other direction.
Right.
And then
sandwich generation, where we're dealing with
aging
parents.
Right. Well, we're the adult children dealing with children and aging parents, right? So
yes,
that's the sandwiches. We're stuck kind of in the middle zone there.
Absolutely.
We can talk about how this actually lands with the other person, like you had mentioned before. Like, does it come across as helpfulness, or does it come across as an intrusion?
Right.
And then I think also about what helps instead. How do we care without control?
Mm-hmm. How do we participate in a relationship with somebody rather than like a management contract?
Exactly.
Okay.
That nobody's written.
Yeah.
Yes, it exists in our minds.
That nobody agreed to.
Yeah.
Okay, so how does this show up?
So say you love someone, a partner, a grown child, you see them struggling or they're stuck in a pattern that hurts them, right? Or the people around them. I think we see a lot of this in like addiction and mental health treatment, but this spans much farther than that. But you see people stuck in a pattern and they continue to do the same thing over and over again. And you've tried being gentle, you've tried being direct, you've sent links, you've made book suggestions, you've offered help, you've suggested therapy,
you sent podcasts.
You may have even sent this really wonderful podcast that exists to deal with these issues. You made lists, but and you've actually sat down and had these really deep, heartfelt talks. But somewhere along the way, I think the role starts to shift. Right? We're not just in a relationship with them trying to help and offer suggestions. It starts to shift into this managing role. It starts to shift into this almost like caretaking, like I have to do all of these things for you.
Yes. Watching everything the person does. planning conversations.
Yeah.
Every interaction, kind of mapping it out.
Exactly.
Like
Waiting for waiting for the shoe to drop, as people say.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Waiting for that next slip. And then hopefully, if maybe something we say will finally click. It doesn't ever click.
No.
And it ends up being really frustrating, right? So today we're talking about that experience of like what that looks like when we're giving all these suggestions and trying to help. And we're trying to fix it. Not because we're bad or that we want to be controlling.
No.
But because we care and we're scared.
Yeah, we're coming from a place of fear. Right.
Once again, that our
fear
old,
is the culprit.
Our old friend fear comes up again, right?
Right.
And so we want to see how this plays out in like romantic relationships and in partnerships, and with our parents as adults, and touch on how it shows up in parenting also, because I know that comes up. I know last time you and I talked quite a bit about how that comes up,
and maybe how we can move from managing someone's life back to sort of being in a relationship with them where they have autonomy and we're not trying to control.
Exactly.
And we're not coming from a place of fear.
Right. So Kenyon, let's talk about what fixing is in plain language. Right. So we have the difference. The two things we're going to define are support and fixing. So support is being present, it's listening, it's offering help with when asked, or with consent, as you mentioned before. Like, hey, we want to make sure somebody asks us for help
before we offer it.
We offer. So it's offering help when asked or with consent, and it's respecting the other person's pace and autonomy. Can you tell me a little bit about respecting people's pace and autonomy?
Absolutely. That's allowing them, in recovery language, this comes up all the time. You wish somebody a long and slow recovery. And the idea there, it can be frustrating to somebody who just wants to like have an instant fix.
Yeah.
But what you're actually saying to somebody is, hey, do this on your terms, in your way. We're not going to force epiphanies on you. Or quote unquote cures,
right?
To allow somebody the grace, you talk about grace a lot, to figure things out in their own time. That's a pretty key move in terms of building up somebody's self-esteem.
Yeah, I think that's true, and we see it a lot. It's kind of that's that therapeutic kind of like experience that we focus on a lot, right? Like so we want to take that experience and actually kind of foster that in everyday relationships.
Exactly.
Tell us a little bit about fixing.
Fixing. Taking responsibility for somebody else's choices, for somebody else's feelings, and definitely for somebody else's outcomes. Assuming that you're sort of like remote controlling somebody like a car, feeling like it's your job to get somebody to change or to make quote unquote good decisions.
Right.
Thinking, if I just can say this the right way. In other words, if I can just manipulate this person perfectly, they're finally going to become who I need them to be.
Yeah.
And as a parent, it's super easy to fall into this.
Oh, totally. As you were talking and defining fixing, I'm sitting here going through my head going, oh man, I'm tied to, and we talked about this with expectations. I'm tied to all of these outcomes with my kid. Like, let me make sure you're eating this thing. Let me make sure you're getting this. And then like, instead of just saying, here are the options, this is what you can have, or this is what we're having. It becomes this whole, like, it's almost like this negotiation I have, or I fall into that trap. Right.
And managing outcomes.
Yeah.
So again, like if you encapsulate it, helping is, I'm with you in this. We're doing this together. And fixing is, it's my job
yes,
to get you out of this, whatever the problem is.
We use the analogy all the time in therapy about the process being like we're walking alongside people, making suggestions, right? And we're not saying do this, and do this,
right?
Because it doesn't work.
No.
We'll end up being disappointed and burned out if we wanted that. And that's what I think happens a lot in relationships and with parenting and with trying to manage adults, like adult parents.
100%.
Or if we have aging parents, as you said, like that's just trying to take care of. I think about all the lists and everything of like trying to like, hey, let's talk about. Now it's like, can I get all your passwords, your social security number? Like you go through everything you need from your aging parents just to kind of manage like and shift as they get older.
Right.
It's mind-boggling.
I'm going through this right now
Yeah.
with my dad, who's going to be 92 in about a month. And, you know, making sure he can drive, getting a certified CDRS to, you know, do a driving assessment, which he just passed. And, you know, making sure if they're going to age in place that the house is, you know, in order and that there are lifts on the stairwells and things like that.
Yeah. It's so much to organize, and it's a full-time job, actually.
And I really don't want to come off as condescending or patronizing to them.
Or controlling.
Right.
Yeah.
And they need, it's like in anything, whether it's therapy or relationship with a spouse or a parent, an aging parent, or a child, an 8-year-old, you want them to have buy-in, or else, as you said, we're just going to seem like we're a taskmaster.
You're a taskmaster, you're controlling, they will get resentful, and they're going to push back.
They're going to push
which
back.
is what we see. We see it with people in treatment. We see it with family. We see it with friends. We see it with anybody that we try to control will end up pushing back at some point. Or we end up controlling their life, conversely, and then it feels really awful.
Right.
So let's look at how this. So this is a really good example you gave us of like dealing with this with aging parents. How about in some relationships? So let's think about a lot of people deal with a partner's drinking or their anger. We hear a lot. So it's not just like substance use. Oh, you drink too much, or you're smoking too much marijuana, or whatever it might be. We hear about this a lot more with anger.
Yeah.
I'm seeing. And one partner will come in and say, hey, I'm having a really hard time dealing with my partner's anger. They just seem frustrated all the time. They seem angry at us.
Right.
Or clutter we deal with, or health, or just attending therapy. I think a lot of times in partnerships we see that like one person wants to monitor, they end up reminding people, the other partner, they end up lecturing, they end up being the one who sets up all the appointments and takes care of all the logistics. They're the ones who read the self-help books, but for them, for like the couple, but it's only one person reading it.
Right.
So,
or for parenting, especially for very young children, there's usually one dominant parent who's doing the lion's share of work, and then they become resentful.
Right.
At the partner who's not, in their estimation, pulling their weight.
Yeah.
That's another one.
Of course. And then we see with the adult child, there's the as you were saying, that to try to get the parent to go to therapy, or this is a huge one. I think that everybody's dealt with since probably earlier than 2016, but I think it became so apparent in 2016 because things became so divided. Changing politics,
trying to get your parents, your aging parent, to change their politics, their political views.
Yeah. And or stop certain habits too. But going back, there's very little evidence that says that we will ever be able to change anybody's political view or their religious view. Like it's just those things are attached to what people I think feel at their core, in their values, and will often not budge, regardless of how much evidence we throw at them.
Yeah. Ooh, that's a really good point. And again, every time we're throwing evidence at them, like listen to NPR.
Can't you just see this?
Right. That's going to make them resist.
Of course. People don't want to be controlled. People want to lead. They want to be autonomous.
Right.
They want to have a sense of autonomy and control in their own life, not have somebody else dictate that.
That's worth repeating. Everybody wants autonomy.
That's right.
At all stages and ages.
Yeah. Even that starts early in childhood, right? That's the stage: autonomy versus shame and doubt, right? Can I step forward away from my parent in the playroom, at the nursery, or do I have to keep really close to them? And am I too afraid to go out into the world?
Exactly.
That phase, right? That stage of development is so critical because it looks like the kid crawling away and constantly turning back around to look at the parent to check to see if it's okay. Then they go a little further and check to see if it's okay.
Right.
For those of us that are parents, you might see that process. You might have the kid that just kind of clings to your leg at the playground and never wants to go. You might have the kid that just like is like, deuces, I'm out, and they're gone.
Right.
No problem with autonomy. But it's a stage, and it's actually a process that kids go through.
Mm-hmm.
Why do we slide into fixing? What brings us into constantly wanting this control or this need to kind of like fix the situation?
As you mentioned, fear is a big driver.
Mm-hmm.
There's definitely this sense that oh my God, I'm terrified that this person I care about is going to make a misstep,
right,
that is going to seriously derail their life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So fear is one. Love is another one. And I think that's just, if we just look at this very simply, I love this person, I care about you, I can't stand watching you hurt yourself. Right? There's a pain involved in that. There's our own emotional pain involved with that. But if we truly and deeply care about somebody, that can be a partner, that's family, that's our kids. Mm-hmm. We'll do anything for them. We don't want to see the people we love suffer.
Right.
And so that will really cloud our judgment on how to handle a certain situation.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Yeah. And we have history too. We've talked about this all the time. I think, when we were talking about that inner critic, you were talking so clearly about how we pick up these stories along the way,
mm-hmm.
and we pick up these voices along the way that become
right.
ours. It's the same thing. Many of us grow up in families where we've had to manage other people's moods,
sure,
other people's substance use, or just general chaos.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
We had to be the responsible one, or to keep things from exploding, to keep people safe.
Right.
Maybe it was a house full of substance use where the older sibling had to like protect the kids,
mm-hmm.
the younger siblings, from the parent who was, and it doesn't have to be an abusive situation. They could just be absent or neglectful.
Right. Absolutely. And then what we do is we go out into the world and then we recreate those types of dynamics, whether they're warranted or not.
Right.
It's a survival mechanism.
Mm-hmm.
This worked when I was a kid in my family of origin. I'm going to apply this to the workplace. I'm going to apply this to my romantic relationship.
Yeah. What's even worse is when we realize that we're doing the thing that's controlling that we were aware of.
Mm-hmm.
That we're like, oh, I didn't like that growing up, but it's how I grew up. It's what I knew. And now I'm trying to change it. And then every time it slips back in,
mm-hmm.
then there's like I can't believe that's happening again. Yeah. Like, really, I sound just like this parent, or I sound just like this person in my life who used to do this to me.
Yeah. That's a huge one to kind of out and discuss, because it can cause a lot of shame. It can cause a lot of self-loathing.
Yeah.
And I think, I would just advise all of us to go gentle on ourselves when it comes to like emulating behaviors that we found problematic in childhood.
Yeah.
It's part of the cycle.
If we're aware of it, call it out, name it, then look at different ways to change it, and then actually do those changes,
mm-hmm.
work through them. It's a simple process,
right.
but it's heavy because it's tied to so much emotion.
Right.
We see this also in relationships, right? We see the impact of the other person's choice on us. We see maybe we don't like the way they're managing finances, or maybe
mm-hmm.
we have an issue with the way the person or our partner is parenting.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we have a lack of emotional safety, or our home life just feels like kind of upended a
right.
little bit. And so we start to feel like, okay, maybe if I can control that situation more, if I can control that person,
yeah,
then we're going to be okay.
Right. It's like you're applying logic to it.
Right. Yeah.
Got it.
But it's so not logical.
No, we're not figuring out a prompt for ChatGPT. We're trying to actually have a relationship with a human being.
And Kenyon, you were talking about adult children and parents. So clearly you said you were going through this currently. I think we all go through this. It's kind of the inevitability that we have to manage,
right.
And help our parents as they get older and as we get older. So it becomes almost this, it's this really weird feeling, like this role reversal, right? And I wonder if everybody who's listening to thinks back and actually reflects on this, there's probably a very clear point where all of a sudden you realize, like, oh, this is now my responsibility.
Yeah.
This is they're no longer taking care of me. I am now taking care of them.
Exactly. And there can be a lot of emotions that come up around that, especially if we feel in adulthood that we didn't get the childhood we wanted, or that our parents weren't the parents we wanted them to be. So then if that's kind of like fueling the fire, we can get upset. We can get really distraught being in a role of responsibility over our parents.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. And I think that distraught feeling, that's almost like a sense of grief, right? Like this kind of experience of grief.
Kat would definitely call it, Kat Hurley would call it grief.
Yeah.
And I would too.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a sense of loss. Your parent has changed roles.
Yeah. It is. I think Kat had defined grief as life as we know it changes, right? And that's such a, I think, wonderful kind of like definition, because it applies to so much, to anything really.
Right.
Like if anything in my life changes, I experience some sense of grief, and then that sticks with us. It doesn't that doesn't go away.
For sure.
It kind of hangs out, right? The bag of rocks.
It never goes away, and it compounds, and so we have to be aware of it in order to manage it and be able to carry that sack of rocks.
Exactly. So trying to fix someone is usually not about control for its own sake. We're not just controlling or fixing somebody because we really enjoy the control.
No, I really don't think so. I mean, sure, there's some fascists out there, I'm sure, emotional fascists, but
emotional fascism. I love that.
But no, it's love mixed with fear, I think you called it. It's and as you also said, historical context, what's happened in the past. Oh, I couldn't trust you back then, or this terrible thing happened. And that's where trauma can enter into the equation, and also inform the will to power.
Yeah, I this had happened historically. I don't expect it to be any different now.
Right.
Why would it be any different? So I'm going to control the situation.
Right. So what does it feel like to be fixed, quote unquote? In a romantic relationship, it can feel like being treated as a child who has no autonomy. It can almost be even worse, being treated like you're not even a person, like you're just an object or a property of the other person.
Yeah, or like they're like working on you. Right. Yeah. That's and there's probably a sense of like, I would imagine there's like a tremendous amount of shame that goes with that. Like if you're the person that is being fixed, quote unquote, there's a lot of shame, there's a lot of defensiveness, there's a lot of lack of motivation. Right. Why should I bother if this is just how I'm going to be treated? I must be broken. I think the internal kind of dialogue becomes, I must be broken if somebody needs to fix me all the time.
Right. If all these people are telling me that, I need to change this, that, and the other.
A lot of the common response we probably hear from people too, or the common response we do hear from people is it's resistance. Like, stop trying to change me. Stop. Like there's this immediate pushback, like it's gone too far. Or there's just this, there's like a performative compliance.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like let me just get you off my back. That kind of a thing. Okay.
The short term, what do I need to do to get this person away from me right now? How can I just kind of satisfy whatever weird like need to fix whatever this issue is, just so I can get them away from me? Right. It's
sometimes it's people pleasing, just to get somebody off the back.
It's people pleasing. Also, if we really want to just go back to those core anxiety things, the survival, fight or flight, and then we have freeze and fawn. That's fawn. Yeah. I'm going to just give in to you and kind of like give you what you need just to keep myself safe.
Right. Another aspect of that is this: we can lapse into sort of like secretive behavior where we don't want to get lectured. We don't want to get in trouble, whatever that looks like, with the fixer. So we hide. Classic example. I remember my grandmother, when I was a kid, knew she shouldn't smoke because there was risk of cancer and emphysema. She would sneak into the basement and you could always smell like the cigarettes.
You can't hide a cigarette.
And then, but if you went down to the basement in her house and said, Grandma, are you smoking? She'd be, no, because she just wanted to get everybody off her back.
Yeah. And she was sitting down there just smoking in the dark basement. I love it.
In Kansas.
Yeah. In Kansas. That's what you do. I think about this with hiding drinking, hiding substance use, hiding gambling. Mm-hmm. I think gambling is something that we don't really talk about ever. A lot of people aren't aware of how kind of toxic and destructive gambling is. And then we start to look at the availability of gambling now with all the apps and sports betting and everything. But that I see is there's a real kind of like, all of a sudden the other person in a relationship or the family has no idea that the family is hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt and mm-hmm. cannot dig themselves out.
Absolutely.
I think it's way more common than we even realize.
It's getting more common too, because now you don't just it's not just betting on games anymore. You can bet on these polls.
Oh yeah.
That's right. I mean, I work with a lot of younger people, and they've grown up in their adolescence just betting all the time. Oh yeah, put $20 on this or that, right. Or
Yeah. And it's such an addictive process that I think people don't even realize how fast that can spiral out of control. Mm-hmm. So when we look at how the adult parents might feel, right? Mm-hmm. When we talk about aging parents, adult parents,
right.
They might feel judged. They might feel infantilized. It's one of my favorite words.
Infantilized is solid. And it came up last weekend when my brothers and I set up this driving assessment for my almost 92-year-old father. And he said, "Can I just tell you how humiliating and pointless this feels to me?" Yeah. And I said, "I totally get it."
Yeah. No, and that's all you can do is like, we have to do this. However, I get it. It sucks. People, they'll dig deeper into their position.
Oh yeah.
And then at the end of the day, what's going to happen, Kenyon, is that people are going to avoid the honest conversation because they don't want to be worked on. They don't want to be fixed. They don't want to be controlled. Mm-hmm. They don't want to have just the negative pieces highlighted. So really what happens with all of this is that the person who is being controlled or being fixed ends up avoiding the real honest conversation. They avoid the thing that actually would help both parties.
Right.
Because it feels so bad.
Yeah. And they drop out of the relationship.
I just want to touch on teenagers too, because I think we work with a lot of teenagers. There's a lot of parenting struggles with teens. Mm-hmm. We've all been a teenager before. But that comes across in this, you think of like just you don't trust me, you don't see me, you don't know me, get away. Like all these things, it's just so stereotypical, but we've all said them mm-hmm. and then we've all felt them. Right. And now they're all being said back to us again, which is just like...
Which is a unique pleasure.
Yeah. Which is so funny because my response is always like, oh, I already know what this is. I already know what this is. I know how this feels. I know what you're going to say.
Right.
And it's just like, it doesn't matter. They're going to have to feel their feelings too.
Yeah.
Right. But I always find it's almost like easier with teenagers in that sense in my own mind. And this might not be true for everybody listening, but like this, I can almost justify it and say, oh, they're a teenager now. Mm-hmm. That's just, it's hormones, it's craziness, it's independence. Right. I almost say like that's allowed then, but in other periods and stages of life, it's not. Mm-hmm. Right. That's the struggle. Is like, so it would be much better if I applied that thinking to everybody.
Right.
But that's our struggle. Right.
Well, it's easy to compartmentalize teenagers, especially studying, as you mentioned before, the stages of development.
Yeah.
So, you know what to expect.
Yeah, exactly. There's an important nuance here
mm-hmm.
that sometimes people do need to change for a relationship to be safe.
Yeah.
Right. And that's something we need to highlight. So there are behaviors in relationships that make the relationship unsafe.
Right.
So we need to name the risk and set boundaries. Those things are different. Naming risk and setting boundaries is different from trying to micromanage someone's internal process.
Totally.
And that's a really important nuance. And it's one that everyone would probably benefit from reflecting on. But that's saying, hey, this doesn't feel safe to me, or I don't think you're safe, and here's the boundary, versus I need to control this outcome.
Yeah, that's a huge tool that I use with my clients and they use in their lives, just to be able to say, in the face of behavior that's problematic from somebody else, this doesn't work for me. Mm-hmm. It's an I statement. Yes. You're not condemning them or criticizing them.
No.
Even. You're just saying, hey, here's my boundary. Mm-hmm. So I can't do that. Hits a lot lighter than, you'd better stop doing this right now. Right. I'm going to make you stop doing this.
Exactly.
It's, one's about limits and the other is about really their autonomy and respecting them as a human being.
Totally. And it's also about respecting ourselves.
Yeah.
Because if I can talk with I statements, and we say this in therapy all the time, like use I statements. Don't say you do this, you do this, you do this. Say this is like I feel this when this happens. Mm-hmm. Right? And that separates that controlling. It separates blame. Mm-hmm. Right? It starts putting the onus back on ourselves to make the changes we need.
Right.
If the other person can't participate in that, that's a whole other story.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually something to work with, to say, I can't live with this anymore.
Right.
Then you have something to work with. Well, then the other person can either change or not.
Yeah.
But you don't have to participate in it.
Right.
So let's talk about what helps instead. So like, how do we care without control?
I think the first thing we need to do, if we're finding ourselves in these muddy waters, am I controlling or am I just caring about somebody, is what's my side of the street and what's their side of the street? What is actually mine? What's my responsibility in this situation or in this relationship? What's their responsibility?
That shifts. I feel like that's a moving target too.
Yeah.
Not always, but when I think about different phases of life, right? We talk about parenting, then we talk about maybe in our, current life with, a partner,
right,
or our own kids as they age, and then we talk about aging parents.
Right.
We have to take care of kids. We have to almost control when they're little to protect them. Because all kids are
to keep them alive for the first 4 years.
Yeah, where, as I've said before, we're on one-to-one observation for the first few years of their life.
Right.
So that's a hard shift, though, to start shifting our view of our own responsibility in a relationship. Relationship.
That's what it's about. Ooh. But I think that's actually the key to a relationship working, is can you make an easy, seamless relation shift? Because you're right. It is a moving target.
Did we just coin a new term?
You did. Let's patent it.
I want to know.
Let's copyright it.
It's mine. It can be ours.
Could I rent it from you from time to time?
You can use it whenever you want. Anyone can use it.
Like the bathroom key?
That's exactly it. It hangs on the wall. Take it on your way out. So we look at responsibility. That's a really good point, Kenyon. And then we look at again, going back, naming how the behavior affects us.
Yeah.
Just be honest, be clear, be honest. And we've talked about that in our boundaries episode. We've talked about that in narrative. We talked about that in many of the different conversations and podcasts that you and I have had about being very clear and upfront about how you feel and about how the other person's behavior affects you.
Right.
And that's going to really help kind of clarify care versus control.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
We can set our limits, what we'll stay for and what we won't.
Mm-hmm. That's the boundaries.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, we're taking care of our own mental health in that process. If we don't take care of our own mental health, we're not going to be in a position to help anybody.
Absolutely. It's the old oxygen mask.
That old analogy.
Yeah. But it does come back again and again for a reason.
Yeah.
The degree to which I'm taking care of myself is the degree to which I can help other people.
Mm-hmm. And we have to look at their side. Mm-hmm. Is the person deciding to seek help or not?
And respecting that they have the choice not to make a behavioral shift.
Oh, that's a hard one.
There are consequences that they're also going to have to face. And we as parents especially want to shield our kids from those consequences. We always want to say, make good decisions, make good choices.
Yeah.
Like in Freaky Friday. Doesn't Jamie Lee Curtis say that?
That's right. Yep. Making choices. It's as simple as your kid like falling off their bike or their skateboard.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't want them to hurt themselves.
Right.
I don't want them like, don't go too fast. Don't go over that. When I think back to the amount of like cuts and scrapes and just no helmet, unfortunately, and bloody knees and everything else that we dealt with as kids. I was like, none of us want that for our kids now. We don't want them to experience it, but we're shielding them from all of that. But there is helmets are a need. But you know, there's now that we're finding more and more about CTEs.
Right.
But I think that really, yeah, it's at that level too, that granular kind of like, oh, I don't want them to even get bumped.
And and that's where the fear is cropping up again.
It is, yeah.
And if we're parenting from a place of fear, if we're in a relationship with somebody, loving somebody from a place of fear, we're not giving them the full spectrum, the dignity of the human experience.
That's right.
And it's important to allow people to fall. It's important to allow people to get hurt, whether that's physical or emotional.
Mm-hmm.
We want to shield people from heartbreak. Heartbreak is a really wonderful thing to go through on a certain level, because it teaches you about compassion. It teaches you about empathy. It teaches you about not getting what you want. And it really kind of braces you in a good way for survival and ultimately builds resilience.
It also shows you what you can have. And I've talked about this, you know, with clients before, not around heartbreak, but which is such a good point, Kenyon, but about when people come in and they say, I just want to be happy. I'm like, you can't just be happy.
Right.
We can't. That's a sometimes thing. That's a once in a while thing. We get to be really happy. Yeah. We have to have sad also. We have to have pain. We have to have all of the opposites of what we really just want. Because one, we need the balance, but we actually wouldn't have an appreciation for how happiness feels if we didn't know what true sadness felt like. You wouldn't know what true love and acceptance and how wonderful that feels if you didn't have heartbreak a couple times in your life and the pain of what that is, or how to then treat somebody else, like you said, to have compassion and empathy and all these other wonderful things that we need in a relationship. Right. So that's, we need both actually to exist, I think, as a full spectrum of human.
Yeah. No, it's a really good point.
Yeah.
So another way we can avoid fixing or sort of move away from fixing is to speak from impact rather than, oh boy, once you become a therapist, you hear this all the time, or I do.
Don't therapize me.
Yeah. Don't shrink me.
Yeah.
Don't analyze me. We don't want to make people feel that way. I don't want to say to somebody, you need therapy or you have a problem and we're going to fix it. Instead, it's like, hey, you know, when this happens, I feel sad and scared, and then our relationship feels unsafe, and then I'm sort of paralyzed. I don't really know what to do, and I'm liable to act in a way that you're not going to like or appreciate.
Yeah, that's such an amazing point to reiterate. When this happens, I feel this, which I mentioned before. This we want to put it on us, but then you said, but it makes the relationship feel unsafe, and that I think is the turning point. That's where it really. That's why we try to control right there. This feels unsafe. And that's where we have to really pull it back or just verbalize it. Say, hey, the thing that's going on right now makes me feel like I'm unsteady. This is not sustainable. This is unsafe. You know,
as opposed to, I think it's easy to just walk. Like if something feels unsafe or in the past, certainly I would pre-therapy, I would just run. I'm out. Seacrest out. I don't want to deal with this.
No, it's the easy way. We just do it again.
Yeah.
The other thing we say is I'd feel more hopeful about this if you were willing to get some support with this or some help.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'd feel better about this whole thing. I'd feel like this were going somewhere if you talked to somebody.
Exactly. Because that's why in that way, it's about your experience. You're not blaming or shaming somebody, you're certainly not being anybody's clinician.
Yeah, no, none of us should be anybody's therapist walking around in the world. Like there's a very specific time and place for that.
Right.
So, and that goes for us too as therapists. That's not something we, you don't want to be therapizing people in out there in your personal life.
Again, it's a question of autonomy. I think somebody can feel like they're an object, as opposed to I use the word dignity. Dignity is so important to give somebody the dignity of their own experience.
Yeah, absolutely. That's in therapy too. It's both. That is everywhere. Also, we need to decide what do we do if nothing changes. So that's a conversation to have too, where we're talking about support rather than control. You can ask yourself, if they never change this, then what do I need to do to take care of myself? Right. What boundaries or decisions do I need to make here?
Yeah.
That's a pre-conversation to any outward conversation.
For sure. And then once you have an understanding of those parameters, we often have to make adjustments. Maybe we avoid certain topics of conversation.
Politics and religion.
Right. And maybe we go out and just like get our own support.
Yeah.
That can be therapy. That can be a peer-based group. That could be, a recovery program.
Fishing.
Yeah. In some cases, the right thing to do is to leave a relationship.
Yeah.
Or at least to like sort of redraw the boundaries, renegotiate what the parameters of that relationship are.
Exactly. So boundaries are about what we will do, not about controlling what the other person does.
Yes, we've made that point before, and it's worth making again.
Remember, we talked about the screen on the window, right? Or the valve on the hose, right? Like we're in control of our own boundaries with that. We're in control of how much the window gets open and how much of the screen we're using to let things through.
And I think it's important to distinguish that from the notion that boundaries are all about other people and protecting ourselves from other people. Other people are always encroaching. And it's like, no, it's if you take that perspective, other people are going to get defensive because you're going to be defensive.
Absolutely.
Saying like, hey, this is my boundary. And, almost regarding it with pride will change the way other people interact with that boundary.
Absolutely. And I think as we talk about kind of having these conversations with people, it shifts from controlling to this idea of walking with somebody, accompanying somebody. And that's just the shift here is like, I'd like you to work on this. I'd feel more hopeful if you worked on this, if you addressed this thing. If you decide to work on this, I'm here to support you.
Yeah.
And it's really nice to then know that the person's not alone.
What's implied there is unconditional, really love and acceptance, unconditional acceptance, because you're saying, hey, if you want to work on this, I'm here to help you, but I'm not going to leave if you don't work on it. I'm not going to condemn you or judge you if you don't work on it. Yes, there will be consequences probably.
Yeah.
But that's important because often if somebody's engaging in problematic behavior, maladaptive coping mechanisms, whatever it is, there's usually always a lot of shame, a lot of self-loathing attached to it, a lot of fear on the part of the person who's acting out that they are essentially unlovable.
Yeah. And remember, with that shame comes loneliness. So when we shift the conversation in the experience to I'm walking with you, I'm not walking for you, right? That's that idea that somebody's there with us. We're no longer alone. We're no longer feeling outcast anymore. Yeah. We've got somebody that's there, and it's just nice to know that somebody can walk with us.
Right.
They don't need to do the thing for me. I just want to know that they're there. I can ask questions. I can just talk to them along the way.
It's okay to grieve the version of a person you wanted to fix. It's okay to say, hey, I think about it with my parents all the time. There's a version of my parents that I wish existed. I have this sort of, and I've had it since I was little, this idea of like the perfect mom and the perfect dad. And now that my parents are sort of winding down their lives, not only am I grieving them as they are, but I'm also grieving the parent I wish I could have had.
That's a process then, Kenyon, that we end up needing to focus on. And it begs the question, if I'm fixing and controlling somebody else, what am I avoiding in myself? Right. And that's I'm often trying to avoid my own fear, my own loneliness, my own feelings of stuck, my own feelings of grief and loss.
Yeah.
Maybe I don't want to face the fact that an aging parent is winding down. Right. And that hurts. So I'm going to try and control and micromanage every aspect of that experience.
So as not to feel the hurt.
Yeah. If I'm distracted by micromanaging somebody else's life, I don't have to deal with my own stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so a good question for everyone to ask themselves, what would I have to face in myself? What would I have to feel? What would I have to see in my own life if I weren't so focused on fixing or controlling somebody else?
If I kept the focus on myself.
Yeah. And that's not just with aging parents, by the way. That is with our own kids. That's with relationships. That's with in any situation. That's at work.
Yeah.
What am I avoiding here?
Right.
It is most often just our own stuff. Mm-hmm. Right. Or the pain that we don't want to face by watching somebody else get hurt. But that's still our own pain. It's still, at the end of the day, we're avoiding our own discomfort.
Yeah.
And we know that that's something, as we talked about from the very start of this process, we cannot avoid our discomfort. We have to go through it.
Yeah. That's sort of your mantra in a way, right? But seriously,
yeah, it is.
I mean, it's a lot of it is about like, okay, life is uncomfortable. How can we manage discomfort? How can we tolerate distress without feeling completely overwhelmed by it?
And it doesn't disappear. Mm-hmm. When it is. It's like we have to tolerate a lot of uncomfortable stuff. Life is painful.
Yeah.
As they say, and
it is
all the Zen practice.
It is.
And suffering.
Yeah, like there's a lot of sorrow. Mm-hmm. And I think with regards to that, if we take that into consideration, trying to protect somebody from pain and suffering is a well-intentioned move. I don't think if I'm trying to fix somebody because I want the best for them, it's not because I'm malicious or, as I said, an emotional fascist necessarily.
It's really about loving someone, being afraid, and about what their choices mean for us, about how it feels to us, and often carrying that historical kind of role from the past, maybe about caretaking, all these other things that we've had to do. And so we really need to be clear about asking ourselves, what is my intent here?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
How is this coming across, and how can I walk with this person rather than walk for them?
I agree. And I think it's also important to realize or recognize that we can care deeply about somebody and not do the work for them.
Right.
You can say, hey, this affects me. Here's what I need, without becoming somebody's occupational therapist or their parent.
Yeah.
Really. We can, we don't have to, we can walk beside the person rather than drag them.
That never works. I think it's just that idea of like, at the end of the day, letting everyone have their own path.
Yeah.
Even if you wanted it to be a different one.
The low road will get you there.
Yeah. It's just the low road.
It's the low road, and it's long and winding. But in the end, we all get to where we need to be going. The grave. No,
that's the end. It ends anyway. So why bother fighting it?
Exactly.
There is an element of truth to that, though. Kind of like, don't fight it. We're all going to get there. Just, do what you can to keep people safe. That's it.
The word that comes to mind, though, here, in all seriousness, is one you use a lot, grace.
Yeah.
When we're not trying to fix somebody, we are giving them grace. Mm-hmm. And we're giving ourselves grace, because when I'm trying to fix somebody, when I'm in fix-it mode, I'm terrible to be around.
Yeah.
And I exhaust myself.
It is so exhausting.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening to Right Here, a podcast partnership with WPKN 89.5 FM in Bridgeport, streaming online at WPKN.org and via our free listening apps. If today's conversation resonated with you, we encourage you to follow, review, and share Right Here with anyone you think would appreciate it.
We'll be back soon with another conversation designed to bring a little more light to the human condition. I'm Christopher Mooney.
And I'm Kenyon Phillips.
Until next time, take care of yourselves and each other. Right Here is for educational and informational purposes only and is not a substitute for therapy, diagnosis, or treatment. If you're experiencing a mental health crisis, please contact a local emergency service or your trusted mental health professional.